All right, let's get back to this. So here's the question. Is it the case that what we're doing is in fact not not the truth? The information that we're showing is not valid? What I have tonight is something that I hope that you will take and you'll basically show it to someone else. This is so simple. I'm going to start with an individual named Steve Clore. Steve Clore is on the 2019 Pepperdine lectures. What's Pepperdine? Pepperdine is a school in Malibu, California. They're extremely open to the sectarian world. They are willing to let women be preachers. They're willing to have musical instruments in their worship. I could actually bring up one during this particular lectureship where they have brought in instrumental music and they're no longer worshiping in the fashion that has been authorized in the New Testament. What does that mean? Authorized means permission. You would have to actually find how God wanted you to worship him. And in the New Testament, you cannot find individuals who are authorized, given permission in any kind of way that God wants you to use instrumental music. Steve Clore, he's on Pepperdine. Now, how do I connect these dots so that Drew Milligan, I am fairly certain Drew Milligan will watch this because, we used his name. I appreciate him for bringing us up on his Facebook. I appreciate Mike Huff for engaging him, sending me a private message telling me that this was going on so that I could actually be involved in it myself. I was on his Facebook for a bit on Drew Milligan, and then he blocked me, and I'll try to show you later what it is that I put up. But what we're doing tonight is we're showing you the degree. Steve Clore. How do I present to our brotherhood at large that Steve Clore is actually in a position to make everybody that he is involved with actually guilty, as he is, of being on Pepperdine lectures where musical instruments are okay, women preachers are okay? How do I actually convince them? Well, how about this? This is a lectureship. This is an event that takes place at a college called Crowley's Ridge, and it's in Arkansas, Paragould, Arkansas. And on Sunday, April the 2nd, 2022, Steve Clore was on the program. Now, you might say, okay, that doesn't do it for me. Okay, I want to show you how this actually works. When we start talking about the way that you connect people so that you don't fall into something that's called the 6th degree of fellowship, what we're saying is a one-on-one. You're with someone who is in fact involved with the sympathizing and enabling, if not outright promoting, women preachers, community church, and instrumental music. Well, how do you do that? Let me continue until I actually find the okay, here we are. What does it say? Crowley's Ridge College. And they're advertising, let me get my correct PowerPoint back up. Crowley's Ridge College, that's exactly where we are. You see this? Steve Clore on Crowley's Ridge right here. Steve Clore, April 2nd, 2022. Then we go to the lectureship itself, and let's notice what you're able to see. Okay, we're dropping down to the 2023, and I actually was mistaken. It's 2023 where Steve Clore is. I just didn't have that up. 2023, Steve Clore is on this broadcast. Wow. So that fly actually flew right into my nose, and so you're going to have to excuse me. I'm not going to let this fly take over tonight. So I might not say I'm not going to. Okay, are you still with me? Steve Clore. Here is the actual lectureship. Now, let's drop down here and let's look. Dave Miller. Someone might say, I don't know these people. Let me just give you a visual right quick. Here's Steve Clore. Is that good enough for you to be able to see Steve Clore? I can't help that the way their website works, but they're letting you see Steve Clore's face, and then, it's like, I don't know this guy. Well, how about, here's some help. His name is Steve Clore, and this is Kevin Youngblood. I don't know him myself. This is Ralph Gilmore. So Ralph Gilmore is the former head of the Bible department over at Freed-Hardeman, and Ralph Gilmore is actually a keynote speaker on the same program as Steve Clore. Now, what about Steve Clore? Steve Clore is actually on the Pepperdine lectures. What does that mean? If he is on the Pepperdine lectures, and community church people are on the program, denominational people are on the program, and Steve Clore is on the program, what does that tell you? Is Steve sympathizing? Is he enabling? Is he going along with? Is he for it? And so that's for Steve to actually answer. And people that we're talking about, Ralph Gilmore, who is a former head of the Bible department at Freed-Hardeman University, you ought to be able to ask Ralph Gilmore, are you actually an enabler of Pepperdine? Are you fine with women preachers and instrumental music, the community church, denominational fellowship? Are you fine with that? And if he says no, then the question would be, well, Ralph, why are you like one-on-one with Steve Clore? And, I can put Ralph Gilmore constantly with people from Pepperdine. So here's the question. Here's another question. Would Ralph Gilmore invite a Pepperdine speaker like Steve Clore? Let's get over here to Steve. Would you invite Steve Clore to be at the Freed-Hardeman lectures? And basically, how about talk about fellowship? Well, I know that Milton Sewell, who is one of the former presidents of Freed-Hardeman, is saying no, he would not have Pepperdine speakers. I have a audio video of Earl Edwards, who is former head of the Bible department at Freed-Hardeman, saying that if anybody had been one time on the Pepperdine lectures, then he would have very grave doubts about them and would not want them on the Freed-Hardeman lectures. But in 2023, Freed-Hardeman had 4 former speakers at Pepperdine on their lectureship. So you see, things are changing, Drew. And I'm saying you can get on Freed-Hardeman's on their website, or you can watch some of the shows that we've been doing. Maybe I'll show the show as we're going off tonight and give you an opportunity to see that. Okay, here's Dave Miller. Dave Miller is an individual who works at Apologetics Press. You know what apologetics means? It means that you're a defender. You're a person who answers error, and that's you're in an organization that is their function. That is their focus. Why is Dave Miller on a lectureship with Steve Clore? What, is Dave Miller okay with promoting, enabling, sympathizing with Pepperdine? Well, I can show you Dave Miller on Faulkner lectures, and he's on Faulkner lectures with at least 3, maybe 4, Walt Lever, Jerry Rushford, and F. LaGarde Smith. Those are all men who are very much involved with Pepperdine. They're regulars. Jerry Rushford he's been the individual who was in control of the lectureship for 30 years. That means he's the one that invited people like Amy McLaughlin, who is a woman preacher. Her father, Don McLaughlin, who has introduced instrumental music into the North Atlanta Church of Christ and is for women preachers. His own daughter is a women preacher. Patrick Mead, who has introduced Lauren King into the 4th Avenue congregation over in the Nashville area 2 or 3, 5 years ago. And David Lipscomb is involved in training these women pastors. That's the kind. Chris Edmond on the same lectureship. Chris Edmond is the individual who introduced mechanical instrumental music into Farmers Branch Church, now called The Branch Church. No problem with USA Today covered this. No problem with that. Why would Dave Miller be on this broadcast, on this program? I'm not saying, we're not talking about 2 and 3 degrees back where Dave Miller was on with somebody, let's say this gentleman, who was on with another person at another lectureship who was at Pepperdine. That's 4 steps. We're talking about this is one-on-one. That's 1 step. And he himself was on with other Pepperdine speakers and the director of the Pepperdine lectures for 30 years. So where does that put him? And that's the question that we're asking tonight. So as we go down through here, we have a very interactive website at Crowley's Ridge College. You have Dale Jenkins. Really? Dale Jenkins? Dale Jenkins is on Freed-Hardeman lectures. Dale Jenkins has been on Polishing the Pulpit. If he wasn't on Polishing the Pulpit this year, he is consistently used throughout the Brotherhood in congregations that would be appalled if he said, let's bring in Steve Clore, but I need to tell you, he was on the Pepperdine lectures. They would be appalled that he would say something like that. I believe Dale Jenkins was someone can actually text me if I'm wrong. I believe Dale Jenkins was on Freed-Hardeman lectures with the Pepperdine speakers that they used this year. It's appalling that you find men like this who are enabling, who are sympathizing with Pepperdine and allowing individuals who are on their lectureship more than once to actually come in and be on lectureships with them. And then, here's the thing, then they would like to be involved with us. Now, it's really going to get highlighted right here. This is Kirk Brothers. Kirk Brothers is the president of Heritage University over in Alabama, and Kirk Brothers is also on the same program with Steve Clore. Now, someone might say, Steve Clore, I only have seen him one time on the Pepperdine lectures. Well, how about Jim Martin? Jim Martin has been on Pepperdine. I don't even know how many years Jim Martin has been on Pepperdine. And Jim Martin is actually on this program as well. Jim Martin, a Pepperdine regular, is on a program with Kirk Brothers? What does that say about Kirk Brothers? Just let me ask you this. Would Kirk Brothers invite Jim Martin? Would Kirk Brothers invite Steve Clore to be at Heritage University? You guys that go to Heritage and you guys that are associated with Kirk Brothers and you have great confidence in Kirk Brothers, why would you not talk to him? And I'm saying, is this not validated? Well, you might say, well, Johnny, up to this point, you really haven't validated that he is on the program with them. Well, I have validated that Steve Clore is on Pepperdine. And you just saw Steve Clore basically on the same program with all these guys, Dave Miller, Dale Jenkins, Kirk Brothers. And so at that point, when do I actually end up being validated? Let's just see here just a minute. Now, it is amazing to me that I did not necessarily recognize Jim Martin in the past. I have looked over him because, a lot of times you see these names at Pepperdine. Can you see the little orange dot up above Jim Martin's head? That's the Pepperdine logo. This is Harbor 2021 Pepperdine Lectures. There's Jim Martin on the Pepperdine Lectures. Now, Jim Martin is right beside Kirk Brothers. Now, what does that tell you? I have just validated my statement. And notice, can I do it again? Here is Jim Martin, and who do you see Jim Martin next to? I mean, this is the actual page of the 71st Annual Bible Lectureship at Pepperdine. Well, there's Jim Martin right there. And look, right below him is Amy McLaughlin, woman preacher. So what does that tell you? I've validated myself twice. Here he is on the 2021 Pepperdine Lectures. Here he is on the 71st Annual Pepperdine Lectures. His picture is right above Amy McLaughlin. They happen to be in the M's. Amy McLaughlin. Now, her name is Sheesby, her married name, but they continue to put her in the M's. And the reason they do that is because they want to place her near her dad, Don McLaughlin. Introducing instrumental music into North Atlanta. Don McLaughlin also has on staff Steve Maxwell, who is the co-founder of Acapella, which is a vocal group that goes into sectarian. They go anywhere, really, all over they've been on every continent in the world, and they're performers. They're actually demonstrating, actually entertaining you is what they're doing. And so Steve Maxwell is his head of music ministry. Steve Maxwell is on the Winterfest program this year with Jeff Walling. He is a regular at Pepperdine. He is a regular at Oklahoma Christian where they have Pepperdine. And look here. Here is Bruce McClarty. Who is Bruce McClarty? Bruce McClarty is the former president of Harding, and he is now on staff at Freed-Hardeman, and he spoke on the Freed-Hardeman lectures this year. So look at the question that arises. Now, is this valid? How many degrees is this? These guys are right together. Bruce McClarty is in good standing at Freed-Hardeman. Well, should he be? I'm saying seriously, why not just invite Don McLaughlin? Why not invite Amy McLaughlin to Freed-Hardeman? If you've got Bruce McClarty there, and for that matter, why not invite Don McLaughlin and Amy? Why not invite them over to Crowley's Ridge College lecture program? Well, that would not be permissible. I don't understand why, because Jim Martin is on so many Pepperdine lectures that is just unbelievable that I've actually missed him. I had no reason to think that Jim Martin would be such a prominent figure in the Pepperdine world. Now, what I'm showing you right here is I'm showing you Pepperdine lectures over and over and over. 1992 Pepperdine lectures, 2010 Pepperdine lectures, and I'm pointing at this individual right here. That's Jimmy Adcox. Jimmy Adcox is from Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is right outside of Paragould, Arkansas. And Jimmy Adcox is a regular 2010 Pepperdine lectures. Let's go over here and locate him on the 1992. Jimmy Adcox right here. Let me raise that up for you. We've taken the time to get this information together with you. Can you see that? 53rd Annual Pepperdine Lectures. That's 1992. So he's been going a long time. Jimmy Adcox, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 2010. He was on the Pepperdine program. He is a regular from way back. Now, let's basically bring this into our sphere. Look at this. CRC lectures. What is CRC? Crowley's Ridge keynote speaker. Who is it? It is Jimmy Adcox. Now, y'all, how is it that guys like Dave Miller, Dale Jenkins, Kirk Brothers can actually be on a program that consistently finds people that are Pepperdine regulars on the same program? Is that not a question, Drew, that really should be answered? I'm just saying, why is it the case that these individuals get to be on these programs with individuals that are on Polishing the Pulpit. Is Dale Jenkins a regular on Polishing the Pulpit? Is Kirk Brothers? He was on Polishing the Pulpit this year. Should not Kirk Brothers have been questioned about being on Crowley's Ridge program with Jim Martin and Steve Clore? Could Kirk Brothers talk to Alan Webster and Cody McCoy about having Steve Clore and Jimmy Adcox and Jim Martin over to the Crowley's Ridge? Over to the there's just way too many P's and whatever. Over to Polishing the Pulpit next year. They already have their program set up for 2024. They're claiming that they're going to have 2 Polishing the Pulpits this coming year. What if Kirk Brothers suggested that, I was on the Crowley Ridge lectureship over in Paragould, Arkansas, and Steve Clore really did a good job, and Jim Martin, this guy, and I've listened to Jim Martin. Jim Martin does an excellent job on the material that I have listened to him present. But what about the fact that he is an enabler, sympathizer, if not an outright user of instrumental music? And I can guarantee you that he's involved with instrumental music, that he does not have a problem with it playing during the worship assembly where he is. And you might say, well, how do you do that? He's at Pepperdine. Do you think that he leaves the Pepperdine property or the assembly when they start using instrumental music? Absolutely not. These individuals are all in for it. How about Community Church? All in for it. So now, I would simply ask a person who is one of our detractors if he really has a reason to say that we're not giving out information that is correct. Here's 2023 Pepperdine lectures. You have Dudley Chauncey. Who's Dudley Chauncey? Dudley Chauncey is the professor over the youth at Oklahoma Christian. And here's Jeff Walling. Let's see. Jeff Walling is right here. Jeff Walling is over the youth at Pepperdine. And the two of them came together into Gatlinburg in February, and they basically were in charge of, Dudley Chauncey claims to be an organizer for Winterfest. And who was on Winterfest? Winterfest had 2 individuals that were, one of them was on the Freed Hardeman lectures. His name was David Skidmore. You mean to tell me that David Skidmore was with Dudley Chauncey, who is at Pepperdine, and he's with Jeff Walling, who's at Pepperdine? He's at Pepperdine too. David Skidmore is on the program. He's basically one of their Renaissance man, as Jeff Walling calls him, that operates off of one of the websites, one of the programs that Pepperdine is in charge of, David Skidmore. And then you have Phil Brookman was on Winterfest. These are all keynote speakers. Phil Brookman. Well, where is Phil Brookman? Phil Brookman is an individual that is regularly involved with Phil Sanders over at Edmond Church of Christ in Oklahoma, or in Edmond, Oklahoma, right outside of Oklahoma City. Now, let me ask my producer to go over and get my power supply. It is really disturbing that I have to show you this information, and you might really not believe me that it is disturbing, but I'm telling you, it is disturbing that we're at this juncture and that I am in a position where I can present this information and it cannot be gainsaid. Someone might say, well, Johnny, I don't know that I've ever heard this information put in this fashion. Phil Brookman, an individual who is consistently being used on Pepperdine lectures and was with Jeff Walling, Dudley Chauncey, and David Skidmore at Winterfest, one of the most liberal events in the entire brotherhood. I'm basically saying it is irrefutable, and I have to tell it because I get no pleasure out of telling it. I have to tell it because people that I am in fellowship with directly are involved with this as well. And they're also answering back and saying to me, it isn't the case that this is going on. This is Phil Sanders. He is actually housed, he is a member at Edmond Church of Christ. What is this advertisement in 2021? Please join us tonight's year-end area-wide service at Edmond Church of Christ. Phil Brookman of the Memorial Road Church of Christ will be speaking. Phil Brookman is a regular on Pepperdine. Phil Brookman was on the Winterfest 2023 this year. And Phil Brookman is an individual that goes back and forth with Edmond Church of Christ, where Phil Sanders is actually on staff. He is in charge of In Search for the Lord's Way. Okay, that's Edmond having Memorial Road. Memorial Road is all in for Pepperdine. And people like Missy Robertson, Duck Dynasty, I believe she's Jace Robertson's wife at Duck Dynasty, and Oklahoma Christian call that the West Monroe Church of Christ. Whites Ferry Road Church of Christ. They don't call themselves the Church of Christ anymore. Then you have Edmond Church of Christ, December 28, 2022. That was 2021. This is 2022. Join us tonight for a year-end area-wide worship at Memorial Road Church of Christ, where you can hear Jeremy Beller, PhD, of the chair of Bible at Oklahoma Christian University. Are you seeing this? Yo, this is basically the home of Phil Sanders. Can I ask you this? If this is permissible and it's not a violation of the unfruitful works of darkness getting into our fellowship, then can I just suggest this? Let's just see if Jeremy Beller can be on Polishing the Pulpit next year. He's on everything else with you guys. Why not have him on Polishing the Pulpit? And why not have Phil Brookman? I mean, Phil Brookman was in 2023. He was on Winterfest with a Freed Hardeman speaker. I'm saying David Skidmore was on Freed Hardeman 2023. David Skidmore was in February, which is basically the same month. He was on Winterfest, and he's with Phil Brookman. So why not have Phil Brookman on Polishing the Pulpit? Why not have Phil Brookman at Freed Hardeman? Why not have Jeremy Beller at Freed Hardeman? I'm just saying, you have Phil Sanders. You have Phil Sanders on Polishing the Pulpit. You have him on Freed Hardeman. Why not bring in people that he fellowships so he can be more comfortable? Why not bring in Phil Brookman, who is comfortable at Pepperdine, and bring in Jeremy Beller? And you might say, no, Johnny, this is really, you're actually getting way out. Here's Phil Brookman. He's a keynote speaker on Pepperdine, 79th Annual 2022. That's the same time that Phil Sanders was going over to the Memorial Road Church of Christ, where he's a preacher. This is basically showing, here's Chris Edmond. Chris Edmond actually introduced instrumental music 13 years ago at Farmers Branch. And these individuals are all together. Okay, here's Jeremy Beller with Donnie Bates. Who's Donnie Bates? 2022, Affirming the Faith lectures in Oklahoma City, North MacArthur Church of Christ. Donnie Bates is on the staff at Bear Valley, it's right here, instructor at Bear Valley Institute in Denver, Colorado. So you're telling me that Jeremy Beller, who is in full fellowship with Phil Brookman, a regular at Pepperdine, now being used at Winterfest, why not have Jeremy Beller at Winterfest? Why not have Jeremy Beller if you're going to be with Donnie Bates? Donnie Bates is an individual that's not foreign to Southeast School of Biblical Studies, which used to be East Tennessee, which is where Steve Higginbotham actually preaches at Carnes. These individuals are all regulars over there. Why not just have Jeremy Beller? Why not have Phil Brookman? Why not have Steve Clore? Why not have Jim Martin? You know, for all I know, Jim Martin has gone under the radar as far as my radar is concerned. I never really noticed that. Randy Roper, he's over here at Edmond as well on staff. Randy Roper, he's a speaker at Pepperdine himself. I'm saying, listen, if anybody knows Drew Milligan, would you please tell him that we have demonstrated that there is no 6 degrees out here. There's no 5 degrees. There's no 4 degrees. There's no 3 degrees. It's 1 and 2, one-on-one. Individuals that are involved. Phil Sanders is not going to Pepperdine, but Phil Sanders is happy. He is fine. He is an enabler and sympathizer. He is an individual who is all up in these individuals who do not oppose women preachers, musical instruments, community church, whole bit. What are we supposed to say? Here's Phil Brookman, Edmond Church of Christ, 2023. Come over and here at Edmond, where Phil Sanders is, hear Phil Brookman, hear Jeremy Beller. Here, these are individuals. Phil Brookman, as we said, he's a regular on Pepperdine. Jeremy Beller is an individual who has no problem with Oklahoma Christian. He has no problem with ACU. And let me go out here, and I want to show you the extent of this on, let's see if I can actually find in the last few minutes, if I can find the link that gets us to Affirming the Faith, where really a lot of this takes place and where definitely individuals need to be aware of actually the existence of these individuals. Let's just do this. Affirming the Faith. Affirming the Faith is a great one to go to. Affirming the Faith lectures. And the reason I say it's a great one to go to, because look at this. They give you just unbelievable amount of schedules, and you can look back at their schedules. And this is one that I actually had up on my broadcast for tonight, and I didn't end up showing it to you. Let's try 2022, and let's see if we can, how many individuals we can actually see that were on Polishing the Pulpit. Is Jeff Jenkins, Dale Jenkins, are the Jenkins welcome at Polishing the Pulpit? Here you have Jeremy Beller. Who's Jeremy Beller? 1 degree. He's with these individuals. He is with Phil Brookman. He is with Phil Sanders. He is going back and forth to Memorial Road, where Stafford North used to be an elder. Here's Harold Redd. He is an individual who is a Pepperdine speaker. Here is Jack Evans Jr. I don't think there's anybody hardly in the know that doesn't know that Jack Evans Jr. is teaching false doctrine on marriage, divorce, and remarriage. Southwestern Christian College in Terrell, Texas. Ken Jones, Lubbock Christian. He is now the president at Oklahoma Christian University. And, you know, we just keep going down here, and you're going to end up seeing much more individuals. Harold Shank, regular on Pepperdine lectures. Tim Piles. Tim Piles was a regular on the Tulsa workshop before it ended. Here's Donnie Bates finding himself in this particular crowd. Harold Red, also a speaker on Pepperdine. You have Randy Roper, speaker on Pepperdine. I'm saying, just let me ask you this. How many Pepperdine speakers is it all right to be with? And how many of them can you be on with before you are, in fact, considered just like them? You're in company with them. You're not opposing them. I doubt very seriously that Donnie Bates even knows that Randy Roper is a Pepperdine speaker. I would just shudder if he didn't know that Jack Evans Jr. was a false teacher on marriage, divorce, and remarriage. I would really shudder if he did not know about Jeremy Beller and the places that they actually occupy. You know, folks, in my mind, I cannot believe tonight that there's anybody that is watching our program that is not at this point basically willing to say, you know, I need to have a look at some of this information. And how do you do that? You do that right here on What Does the Bible Say? You tell a friend about What Does the Bible Say? It's just that simple. You tell them that they can get on and they can listen. For the last month, we have really been showing the things that are going on. We appreciate